Get there. Be the club.
Nice par.
Good luck.
Hello everybody, my name is Lat Mackey and this is Sequence Break, episode 33, Golf. That's right, golf. You know, the game with the club and you hit the ball in the grass and stuff. Well, that's what this episode is actually going to be about. Okay, why golf? So here's what the idea for this episode and where we're going to go with this thing. There's some really interesting stuff that happens around speedrunning golf games. And towards the last half of this episode, we're going to get into the actual speedruns and stuff like that. If you haven't, do yourself a favor and watch the SummoningSalt We Golf video. I've been speedrunning golf for a couple of years and power golf and recently golf Daisuki. And the thing that Salt's video does so well is shows you some of the interesting strategies around speedrunning a golf game. Personally, I find speedrunning golf super relaxing, super fun, but also like really different from a lot of my traditional platforming and those kind of speedruns. So that's why I thought it might be interesting to highlight some of the interesting stuff that happens around speedrunning a golf game. But also, I thought it might be fun to, there are so many, there must be, I mean, there's got to be like 1,000 golf games for video games throughout the decades we've had video games. I would not be surprised to see if there's that many golf games. Definitely hundreds, I'm sure. It seems like with every iteration of every single console that has ever existed, including PC, there is always going to be some sort of golf games. And I thought it might be fun to kind of take a stroll down memory lane to kind of tell you where my affinity, I think, came for a lot of video game golf games and start from there. If you're watching the video of this, I'm going to start. This is actually some home video. This is my older brother, Brian. This is probably, he's probably 3 or 4 years old, and I don't even think I'm a year old yet. But you can see from a very early on that my dad brought us up playing golf. This is actually my grandpa, and he's trying to show us how to hit the ball, you know, the grass and everything like that. One of the things, I'm not a very good golfer. I don't watch a lot of golf on TV. I mean, I really enjoyed when, you know, I kind of got brought up during that time when Tiger Woods was so dominant. So I have some memories of enjoying golf that way. But as you can see in my family, we had golf very early on. And I think one of the things so this is my grandpa, and of course everyone smoked in the early 80s, but my grandpa and my dad played a bunch of golf. When my grandpa retired, my dad and him played a bunch. My dad's recently retired, probably about, I guess he's been retired for like 6 or 7 years now. And we've been able to do what he did with his dad. And I think that's the thing I love so much about the actual playing of golf, because I'm not very good, but getting out there on the course and hanging out with family members, your brother, your dad. This is my dad on the left-hand side. I don't know what the heck they were looking at here, but there is a little clip of me here. Oh no, that's not what I want to do. Let's go back to this here. And there we go. There's me. If you're curious about what I would look like as, this is my golf and training right there. I was a little bit of a chubby baby, I was a chubby baby, apparently. But you can see, look at that. I'm sitting on a golf ball. If that doesn't tell you how much I love golf, I don't know. This has got to be the first happenings around the golf course. Everyone's smoking still. But this is, you know, this is where my love of golf probably came from, is that we were brought up with it at a very young age. I don't know. I remember is like going to like driving ranges and stuff like that, but I'm sure we played some golf in real life, and here's where it started. As far as like a video golf goes, like in video game golf, I think my early memories of it are that I probably played the NES version of golf. I can't remember owning any golf game on Nintendo, but I know that my best friend Matt, who I met in first grade, whose name was also Matt, right? We played some golf like on Nintendo, probably Mario Golf or Golf NES Golf, what I think is what it's called, and we probably pretty competitive with it. Matt had all the cool sports games. He had Tecmo Bowl, he had RBI baseball, he had he had golf, and so we would play a lot of the sports games at his house. And he was so much better than I was at all these games. But that's probably my first memory with any sort of golf game. The one first game that we actually owned that I remember is this game right here. This is Power Golf on the TurboGrafx 16. And it's there's not a lot of sports games on the TurboGrafx 16. This is one of them, and it's actually a really good game. We got fortunate that there is a good golf game. There's actually a sequel to this, Power Golf 2, and it's on the CD-ROM. And I got to be honest, it was tough for me to play. It's almost unplayable. I shouldn't say it's unplayable, but the loading times take forever. It's not very fun. This game, the HuCard version of it, is a lot of fun, and I speedrun it still today. I find it so enjoyable. It only has one course, but it's got a good tune because it's only got one tune for the entire course. And it's got 3 different characters and there's a couple different game modes. So there is some actual replay value. It's not just this one course that you have to keep doing. But it's one of the interesting things that makes, we'll get into the speedrun of it, but why, you know, hey, at least there's only one course, so you can kind of learn your way around this course if you want to learn the speedrun of this game, which I will get to in just a little bit. But this is around 1989, and we probably picked it up around 90 or 91, and this was like the first golf game we owned. The more important and more impactful golf game that we own is going to be this one right here. This is Microsoft Golf 2.0. And oh my God, did we play the crap out of this game. So this is the Windows 3.1 version. I think it worked on MS-DOS, probably 5.0, 6.0, somewhere around there. I think it worked on that as well. I can't quite vouch for that. I know maybe you had to actually have Windows to play it, but the version that we started playing in my household was 2.0, and this was cool because it took advantage of all 256 colors on your 486, or I think maybe we had a 386 at the time that was playing this, and it also took advantage of having the Sound Blaster. One of the things I remember from this game so well is the sound effects. It doesn't really have a lot of music in it, but the sound effects, you hear like birds chirping, and there's like this, it's like I don't know what you call it. It's not like a narrator, but occasionally a voice chimes in. And I've played a couple sound effects here at the beginning of the podcast. There's some of my favorite are like, "Be the club," and "Ooh, nice par." You know, all these kind of sound effects were built into the game, and it just made the game feel real. Is not the best way to put it, but it like created this world that seemed like, man, this was like being at actually Torrey Pines, or this is the Firestone Country Club. You know, like this felt like I was on a real golf course. I know you look at this and you're like, okay, well, but for the time, this was like life-changing. This is probably around 95, 96, and I'm sure that's when we purchased it, was around that time. But like, look, you could do this like flyover. You could take a view. Like these graphics were unreal. This was so amazing, you know? And the other part about this was playing with my family. Like my dad was really into this game. My brothers, we all took turns playing it. You could actually have multiple players playing at the same time. They had male and female characters, so you had a little bit of a choice. I don't know if there's any difference between the characters. I know that you could even select what clubs you wanted in your bag. Like it was really customizable, and it had mulligans, which for those of you that don't play golf, a mulligan is just hitting the ball over again. And the swing control was really interesting. You had, you know, it was really easy to aim and things like that, but it made you really had to hit some shots in this thing to make it work. And trying to lower your score and everything was a ton of fun. And then they would release some extra courses for this game. And I got to tell you that this thing got a lot of play in my house because of, you know, just it's like mind blowing still. I just recently re-downloaded this, and I've been having a real good time really playing. I always kind of wonder when I go back and play a game, man, are my feels for this just nostalgia, or was this actually a decent game? And I got to tell you, this one is really fun, even still to this day. In fact, I've put in more time than I'd like to admit in the last few days playing this thing because I've had so much fun playing it. So what's next? So around this time, around the 486 time in PC computing, I'd say I got my own computer, but what really happened is that there were some hand-me-down PCs in my family, and we were able to put together, because we were all into like constructing our own PCs and putting in our own chips and adding in our own cards and things like that. So I was able to put together my own probably actually at this time probably might have been a Pentium. But the next game that I was big time into was Tiger Woods Golf 2004, and I actually have the CD for it still behind me here at this bookshelf. This is actually the PlayStation version, but I just thought it's basically the same thing. The PC version obviously had a little, you know, you were able to do some better golfs, but man, this game had some really interesting and unique controls to it. If you're watching the video, you can actually see what's going on right now, but instead of just like, you know, holding down the button, releasing the button on when you should hit your swing, you actually pull, you know, you were using the trackpad, the mouse pad, and you would pull the mouse back and then shoot it forward. And one of the things that did was like you had to be really accurate. It just felt like you were swinging the club because the club would respond as you're moving the mouse. And it was a really interesting, I'd never played a golf game like that, and I really enjoyed it. I thought this was really cool. The graphics obviously too in the early 2000s, I think this game came out in 2003, were just, you know, I was like, oh my God, look at this. This looks like Tiger Woods. How cool is this? And so it just had a really good control and feel to it. It had a lot of different game modes that you could play. And for my experience, experience. It felt like, once again, like another big upgrade. It seemed like it took like all the great stuff of Microsoft Golf and put it in, in modern hardware and all that kind of stuff. I'm running a Pentium. I might have been maybe a Pentium 2, 2004. What do we think? Try to think, maybe Pentium 3. I'm trying to think what my processor might have been at that time. I know that this was really fun. So the last console that I ever owned was a Nintendo 64. And so I didn't play any golf games, interestingly enough, on Nintendo 64. I don't have a whole lot of memories to share about that. But I know there are some, like Mario Golf obviously is just, one I've played nowadays, which I find enjoyable. But this was my golf game of choice. Probably, so in a lot of the 2000s, what I realized happened, like I don't have a lot of console memories from the PlayStation 1, PlayStation 2, all these, in that area. That era. And I think one of the things that happened is that I got so much into PCs, and there's kind of like this gap in in all of gaming for me because of where I was going with my real life and what I was doing at the time, with like working and traveling and all that kind of stuff, that whatever I could get I needed either a portable console like the Game Boy Advance, which I played the crap out of, or a PC at home. And that's where I ended up playing some Tiger Woods Golf 2004. Around the time I was able and legal to go into bars. I don't know if I have a video of this. No, I don't. Okay. So I really enjoyed Golden Tee. I think it's still around today, although you can't go in any, adult establishments at this point because of the quarantine and everything like that. But Golden Tee is a game I've enjoyed. I wasn't very good at it, but it was fun. If you're having a beer and sitting around with some friends, Golden Tee is a really good time. Okay. My wife and I, Angela, met in 2010, and the first date we ever went on was we played Wii at her parents' house. And this is in 2010. So I don't even know what console's there, but Wii is way outdated even at this point. But we started playing Wii Golf at her house, and I fell in love right away with the game. I guess you could say maybe the wife too at the same time. Your first date, your wife's bringing, wants you to play Wii Sports. How cool is that, right? So, but the Wii Golf game right away, so I just played this literally last night also on stream, and there is something about Wii Golf that is just freaking fun. The controls are really responsive. I love the music and the sound and everything that goes with it, but it's really a fun game. And so when I play it now, or when I look at it now, I think about that almost every time. I think about that first date with the wife and how we had a great time. It was really enjoyable, and how cool that somebody wanted to play video games on their first date. Little did I know that would be the last time that we'd ever play video games ever again. But there's that. But whatever, so it was a good first impression, I will say. And this is actually a theoretical. It's almost like a task of Wii Golf. You'll see every shot is perfect. And I didn't want to show my gameplay from last night because I got to be honest, it's really awful. I'm really bad at this game. But this also game, if you haven't, I mentioned it earlier, go check out the Salt video on the world record progression of this, because what they did with the speedrun in this game, all of the runners, is absolutely insane and awesome. That people put in this kind of time and stuff to to a game. So here's where I'd like to go. Why would you consider, or what makes a speed run of golf so great? Well, so about 2 years ago, I started picking up, let's actually go back to it so you can actually see some of the things that are happening while we're doing it. This is going to be Power Golf, and I played through it casually on stream. I think a lot of us do or whatever, and let's see what's, and this game, I'm like, man, there's some really interesting things that happen. So for Power Golf, while you only play one course, there's wind that changes on every single shot. And so there's this RNG element. If you've watched the SummoningSalt video, you'll know that a lot of times if you get a hole-in-one or an eagle, there's in a lot of golf games, there's an animation or a sound effect. Something is associated with it that slows you down. One of the interesting things about a speedrun is most of the time it's not faster to get a hole-in-one. In Power Golf, it actually is. One of the things I will avoid, though, is birdies. So there's this really long birdie attempt when you're trying to shoot a birdie in Power Golf. So I've recently learned strats where I'm trying to hit around the green, and I actually try to chip in from outside of the green to save some time, because the animation in Power Golf, it literally takes 3 or 4 seconds. It takes forever, it seems like. But I think that's one of the interesting things that goes along with speedrunning a golf game. There are things you have to do. The routing is super fascinating. One of the things, Power Golf, the routing has become somewhat standard for me, because even the pin location where you actually hit into the hole changes every single time you play the game, but there's only a few spots where it actually exists. So the actual approach, except for the par threes, the approach is always the same. But routing, in other games, when I was just playing with Wii Golf, and actually right now in Golf Daisuki, there's actually one more golf game. Let's actually go to Golf Daisuki. And we'll talk about that as well. We'll get into that in just a second. With Golf Daisuki, the category that I'm running in Golf Daisuki, which is a game on the Satellaview, which is the satellite attachment to the Super Famicom. Thankfully, it works on an EverDrive. You play 6 courses, and they're only 9 holes. They're 8 holes each, but it's a putt-putt type golf game. And the thing that is interesting, I found myself like I've finally found a route that I think is working for me. But because of where some of the pin and where you actually start hitting the ball, I found that you will adjust your routing based on that, and it's really fun to make some of those on the fly adjustments. I think this is what makes some of the golf speedrunning so interesting, is that I don't want to say it's not pressing the A button at the same time every single time you play through the speedrun. It changes quite a bit, and it feels like you have to make a lot of on-the-fly adjustments. In all fairness, I haven't grinded down my times in Golf Daisuki or in Power Golf down to something where seconds matter yet. But I think even as I get to that point, or as I get better at these games, it still feels like the speedrun is new and different every single time, which is like, it's from a speedrunning perspective, that's really cool. So it really forces you to learn the mechanics of the game, which any good speedrun does. But the fact that you're trying to master how to play the game is really interesting. I think that's interesting. I'm gonna speed ahead here so you can see some later on. This Golf Daisuki, we've been actually having a lot of interesting runs being submitted currently in Golf Daisuki. There's like, I don't know, 5 or 6 active runners right now. And this game was recommended to me, as always, by Epic Neon Ninja Monkey. Him and I did a race of Alice in Wonder Dream, and whoever the loser was got to pick a speed game for the other person. And Epic picked this game for me because he knew it was a short run. He was just the one course he said I had to play, and it's less than a 5-minute run. It'll end up being like a 3-minute something run. And I've enjoyed the game so much that I've started playing all the courses. And the reason is because of the variety and everything that goes along, as I've mentioned, with speedrunning a golf game. If you're looking for something like really different, I think that's kind of the interesting thing about golf, is that it's not going to be the same speedrun every time you go through it. But the mechanics are important to learn, just like anything. This Golf Daisuki is really interesting. It's this putt-putt golf game, and there are all these, there's these arrows, there's warps, there's all this weird stuff happening. And depending on how you play, this can really change your routing and how you do everything in the game quite drastically. So I do recommend it because it's really fun, and there's a community around it right now. There's an active Discord trying to hunt for new strategies. We're trying to break the game currently. There's a couple of interesting, like, I'd call them warps, but just ways to shorten the holes. But we haven't clipped anything yet, and there's got to be some OB clips that actually work in this game, because you can hit the ball out of bounds, but then you just lose a shot. So that's another thing. I think that's something that's kind of interesting. There's a strat currently in Wii Golf speedrunning where you actually forfeit a hole. You hit it in the water enough times so that you can forfeit the first hole, because it's faster than taking it a normal route. That's a really interesting strat to use in a golf game, like if you're speedrunning it. And that's kind of some of the things you get to discover, and you get to go down the rabbit hole as you're learning these things. One of the things that's interesting about like the 8-bit and 16-bit era is that the way that you're able to signify or differentiate like slopes is by using these arrows, which are just, they're greater than or less than signs that are just, angled a certain way to determine a slope. I am still struggling with how to analyze those and properly assess and hit my ball correctly, because oh my gosh, they just seem like I keep always misreading it. But once again, as you play the game more often, you start to learn what those mean, because a lot of times, basically in any 8-bit or 16-bit golf game I played, those are always fixed. The hole itself might change, but the slopes of a green are mostly always fixed. I'm trying to think of a game that doesn't have that, and I haven't run into one yet. the speed run, the goal right now is to play all 6 courses of Golf Daisuki in less than 30 minutes. I don't currently have that. I think I'm at a 38 minute, but it is kind of fun. You know, one of the fun things, if you haven't learned a new speed run in a while, one of the fun things about that is that you're just shaving minutes off every single time you PB. And man, it feels good to like shave minutes off a time, because you know at some point that's not going to be the case anymore. So it's always nice to have that. And this game is just, I've actually put Power Golf a little bit on hold because I've been having so much fun learning and playing this game. There's just so many interesting things to it. One of the things that's challenging about Power Golf is that there's no auto club selection. So I play driver almost the entire course, and that gets really tough when you're getting close. Like when you're around 100 or 90 yards away from the green, it gets tough to hit a driver that specific amount of distance, but you just kind of learn. Golf Daisuki, you only use a putter the whole time. That's the entire club. So you don't actually have to change clubs or anything like that. But there's the way that the power and the angles work here in Golf Daisuki, there's a lot of adjustments, and you just are kind of getting in the rough spot of how much power you want to hit and stuff, because you want to cycle through your power choices as fast as possible. So what else is there to say about Golf Daisuki? I'm really thankful that Epic suggested this game, because I'm really enjoying it, and I'm really enjoying the community that's popped up around it. And my guess, I don't know some of the other speedrunning golf communities, but I have a feeling if you picked up a speedrun of a golf game that already exists, there's going to be a little bit of community around it. They're probably going to be passionate about it, because the games are just I just sit back, I relax, I enjoy the speed run, because it's so different, and it gets the brain thinking in a different way. The other golf game that I've played recently that I wanted to mention is Golf Story on the Switch. I think it might be on PC too. I can't remember now. Where is it? Oh, this is it. Okay, so thank you, Game Explain. I'm using your footage. But Golf Stories, I picked it up on the Switch. I think it might only be available for Switch. But it's a normal golf game, but it actually it's an RPG that is a golf game. And that sounds a little interesting, but it's actually really good and really interesting that you get to, like, there's experience points, you're developing and building up your golf game. It's got a really great sense of humor. And you can run around instead of just walking around. You can actually hold down a button where you walk through the courses. I think there's 6 or 7 different courses. I can't remember. I finished the game a few months ago, but it's really an interesting. I played for score, played for casual. It's like any good Switch game. It's something you can just pick up and put some time into it and really enjoy it. Or you can, if you just want to play for 15 minutes, or if you just wanted to play a course, or if you wanted to play the story, it offers a bunch of different ways to play it and different options. And that's, I think, the thing I like about it. That there's also even a frisbee golf game within the golf game, which is kind of fun and kind of silly. But I've really enjoyed playing the game, and I think this goes along to just probably I enjoy golf games in general, and these are some of the ones that I've been playing. I'm curious, like, what are other speedrunning golf games that maybe I'm not familiar with, or that you might suggest? If you have any, let me know in the comments or shoot a message on Discord or something, because I'm always looking for new and fun games to play, and I really appreciate, obviously, the golf genre, because there are so many wonderful games. One of the games that keeps coming up as one of the best golf games of all time is Lynx 2003, and I just picked up the game yesterday. And it's interesting because to get some of these older PC golf games, a lot of them have been abandoned. Probably, for those of you, if you have any sort of familiarity with the EA Sports model, any EA Sports game, they want to come out with a new game every single year. So a lot of times there's no incentive or there's no reason to remake Tiger Woods Golf 2004. So Microsoft long abandoned golf a while ago. So I think that's part of the reason why we don't see compatibility updated or anything like that. But thankfully the community has stepped in and figured out a way to patch them or using a DOS box to make them available and playable on modern PC hardware. And I've actually had pretty good luck. I just run a Windows 10 machine, and I've been able to play Lynx 2003, also Tiger Woods, and also Microsoft Golf 2.0 with very little headaches. It's been pretty easy to even install them. Windows 10 actually makes it surprisingly easy to install CD games nowadays. So even that part about it, because it has to act like it's installing from a CD, but it's just been really easy. Man, I'm looking at some of these shots. The shooting mechanic in I think Golf Story just makes it really fun and really easy to kind of learn and get to play and get to do some of the stuff. That's golf in a nutshell. I've really been kind of wanting to talk about this because I think it's so ingrained in like how I was growing up and stuff like that. But there are so many great golf games, and I challenge you, consider speedrunning a golf game if you're looking for a new speedrun to learn. If you're looking for a 12-hour challenge, Wii Golf is a great one. Power Golf is probably a little bit less than a 12-hour challenge. You could probably get a good Power Golf time in, like, I would probably guess anywhere from 5 to 10 hours. Maybe closer to 5 hours. But like Wii Golf, if those of you who weren't around, Darbian picked up Wii Golf for a 12-hour challenge a few years ago, and that's mentioned in the SummoningSalt video. And it's a really good 12-hour challenge. I'm actually considered doing it for my next 12-hour challenge. It's with the you know, with the motion controls and everything. It's a different way of playing golf, and it was so smart on the Wii to do so. A quick word of note that you probably already know this, but I'm just gonna throw it out there anyway. If you're playing the Wii Sports Resort version of Wii Golf, you actually need the one with the motion sensor plus. Only original Wii Sports Golf plays with the old controllers. Learned that one the hard way. Didn't know I didn't have a Wii motion sensor thingy-mabob, and there may have been some profanity associated with not being able to play the Wii Sports Resort version. But it's a good speedrun to learn. I think it's a good 12-hour challenge. That's golf in a nutshell, my experiences of it. Like, you know, if you've got any recommendations, please throw them away. I'd be totally interested to listening to them. And thanks for listening and watching me do another solo episode. I don't know how many of these I'm going to actually do, but I did want to talk about golf. And at some point, we're going to have some golf speedrunners on the podcast, which should be fun, right? Let's get into the weeds on some geekiness as far as golf speedruns. So thanks, everyone, for listening and watching. If you're enjoying the podcast, subscribe, leave a review. All those things go a long way to helping out the podcast. If you'd like to continue the conversation, I'm on Twitter @LatMackey, or you can also join the LatMackey Discord, where we have a sequence break channel. We talk about guests, we have questions. It's really interactive, really fun. Please feel free to stop on by. Thanks so much. See you in the next one. Thanks, everyone, for listening, and thanks. This is why I can't do outros. I'm just gonna keep talking because I can't figure out how to do an outro. This is why I pre-recorded an outro, so we don't have to listen to this anymore. Okay, there we go. Go team. Go golf. Woohoo! Hype.